Hey everyone, it's Carrie from Carrie's Wreath Creations. I'm here today to show you how to make a smaller version of the Swirl sunflower. This is a wreath that's been going around, very popular right now. We are in the summer of 2022. I don't really see it losing any popularity, but basically I have this available in my shop. I'm selling it as a kit. And basically it's a beautiful sunflower with a swirl of usually 4 different colors. The way people have been making this, and I've seen it a couple different ways. I've seen people make it on the large board. This is a Unique in the Creek wreath board. I've seen, again, the large board. I have here a small board. And in my tutorial, I show people how to use this small board, and you utilize all the holes on rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. What I found is that makes generally about a 26-inch flower. And for me personally, I do like to try to adapt my styles to make my wreaths a little bit smaller. So you might be wondering, why would you want a smaller wreath? Well, for one thing, 26 inches, it's a good size wreath. It'll look great on a front door if you have a standard size, 36-inch, 3-foot front door. Not everyone has that. Some people's doors are a little bit on the smaller side. Maybe if you live in an apartment or a condo or something like that, your front door might not be that big. So 26 inches might be a little bit too big for you. Also, if you want to hang one of these beautiful flower style wreaths inside your home, you might want a little bit smaller size in order to have it fit really well on an interior door. Over a mantle, as part of a wall collage or a wall decoration. So you might just be looking for something that's a little bit more compact in size. One of the big things for me is shipping costs. So a 26-inch wreath, which is what you end up with if you use the small board, it's just a little bit bigger than what I prefer to ship due to my box sizes, how expensive the boxes are to get when you need that big of a box. And also, of course, just the shipping costs in itself. As you get into bigger size boxes, the shipping cost goes up, and I like to try to keep everything sort of within a certain amount when I'm trying to ship. Also, not trying to carry a bunch of different size boxes, and most of the wreaths I make will fit in the same size box, except for this kind with if it's 26 inches. Really anything over 24 inches is slightly too large for me. So I've done a lot of talking, but what I'm going to do is show you how you can do this this swirl flower on a small board, but just kind of condensing it a bit to make it a little bit smaller. So before we get started, again, this is a small wreath board. Now you will need to make a modification to the small board. What you would need to do is you would need to create more holes in between all of the spaces that I'm pointing out here. So if you look, here's the number 2. Our Unique in the Creek wreath boards have numbers on the rows. For this style, we're not going to use number 1 at all. For number 2, row 2, you see how there's a pair and then there's a single hole? What I did, and I'll show you in a minute, is I put 1 extra hole on either side of this hole that's by itself to create another pair. And I did that by using my wood burning tool and just melting through the board. Now, safety first, if you're going to do that, make sure that you are in a well-ventilated area, wearing a mask or respirator. I do have a separate tutorial on how to use the wood burner to create the extra holes. I'll put that in the description box below. You could also use a drill if you wanted. I just don't usually prefer the power tool thing, okay? But when you get that done, here's what you have, and I've already loaded my board as well. So again, here's the number 2, here's that pair, here's that single hole, and here are the holes that I melted in, okay, that I added. And I do have then, every time you see that single hole, I put 2 holes on either side, okay? And so I have zip ties in every single one of those pairs of holes, plus the pair that I created. So it's a total of 16 on row 2. And then on row 3, I did each pair and each shared set of holes on row 3. Same thing on row 4, each set of holes. And when I say paired holes, I just mean the ones that are a little bit spaced a little farther apart. So it's from basically going from one pair to the next pair. So here's what it looks like on the back, in case that's a little more helpful to see. Kind of looks like stitching, okay? So you can see that you have each pair. Here's the ones I created, the ones on the board. I'm just going right over that single hole, okay? Row 3, every pair and shared set of holes. You'll see this is a little bit of a distance here on the shared holes, but that's okay. And then same thing in row 4. All right, so how are we gonna put this together? So I am gonna go through this pretty quick. I'll show you how to fold 2 petals, and then we're just gonna put everything on the board. I'm actually probably not even gonna finish the whole wreath, because I will, in the description box, leave a link to the full tutorial for how to do this, but I'll get us started on rows 2, get us started on row 3, and then row 4 is actually the same as it would be if you were doing the full wreath board. So again, on the full board, you use row 1, or I'm sorry, the 26-inch, you use row 1. Row 2, you just use, or I'm sorry, on this style, we're starting on row 2. So I will show you how to fold the petals first. We're just doing a Dean Michael daisy petal. So this is 10 by 10 poly burlap. I do have a tutorial on how I would burn this, of course, using proper safety precautions, but I already have this cut, and it's 10 by 10. This is a moss green color. We're doing a kind of a neutral theme here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just turn it into a diamond shape and fold it into a triangle. I utilize a clip to hold the top together. So we want that nice point on our petal, okay? And then I turn it to its side here, starting at one end, I turn that end under, and then just start scrunching, okay? Until I get to the other end, turn that under as well, kind of give my petal a little bit of a shape. You could put this right onto the board. I actually haven't quite decided how I want to lay these out yet. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a little rubber band on here, and then we'll figure out what pattern we want to go in. Okay, take your clip off, do any shaping that you need to. Okay, so I'll show you one more time. Take your 10 by 10, turn it into a diamond shape, fold it into a triangle. I really like to clip at the top here. Okay. All right, so I feel like just the way this one is cut, I'm gonna turn it over. I like to try to make sure I'm hiding, if it's a little short, which this one is a tad short from 10 by 10, that I just kind of position my mesh in the best way I possibly can. That was actually not really true fray that I just cut off there. The factory edge on this roll of moss green ended up being a little bit loose, like I kept getting little pieces coming out of it, but it is the factory edge and not even anything that I cut. Okay, so again, I just turn the end under, and I'm just kind of gathering the same amount of material every time. Turn the other end under. I like to do just a little bit of shaping before I put it in the board, or in this case, I'm doing bands, and then I can do some more shaping once it's held together here. Take my clip off, okay, and there's my petal. So let's talk about how we're going to put this on the board then. Okay, I think so. I just showed you the moss green. We also have, this is called natural. It's kind of like a sandy beige kind of color. We have this, this is actually called beige, and this is more like a straw, like a wheat color. And then I have this really pretty multicolored. It has brown and then the natural moss green and beige in it. This is actually discontinued. I couldn't find any more of it anywhere, but let's just lay out our pattern here. You do need 10 pieces of each. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe something like this kind of a pattern, where I do the multicolor, then the natural moss green beige, and then repeat. Okay, so where I am starting is I'm going to be starting to, let me just make sure I know what I'm doing here, because what I want to have happen is here. Okay, so I am starting, here's the number 2. My first petal is going to go just to the left of it. So in the holes that I created, that's where that's going to go. Let me just double check that that's the way I want it. Actually, I think I lied. And I think I'm going to actually start at the very top, right where the number 2 is. And then, let me see here. Yep, that's where I'm gonna start. So scratch that. We're starting right at where the number 2 is, right on the very top. Okay. So you are starting in a slightly different place than you would if you were doing the other style. So make sure if you are doing, or not really the other style, the other size. And I'm gonna do 2 of each one. So we're gonna end up with about a 22-inch wreath by doing this. So it'll be slightly smaller. And like I said, it's good for those interior doors, your more non-standard sized front doors, as well as if you wanted to hang it on a wall. It's not going to be too big. Cuts out down on shipping costs for your customer. I think rather than go around twice, we'll just go around once, because I don't want this to be too long of a video, and I already talked a lot. So basically you do 2 of each color. We have our 4 colors, and then you would repeat. I will not repeat for your purposes of just keeping this a little bit on the shorter side. So I'm going to go ahead and use my zip tie gun and clip these off. Any of the tools you see me using are available in my Amazon affiliate shop, which will be in the description box below. I am also an affiliate for Unique in the Creek, where they sell the boards and they sell poly burlap, other kinds of mesh and wreath making materials. So that will be in the description box as well. Okay, so now so here's where I started. When I go to the next row, which is going to be row 3, I do want to offset my because I'm trying to create that swirl pattern. So here's the number 3. You want to count 2 over from that. So basically, here's the pair of holes next to the number 3. Here's the number 3. Here's the pair. Here's the shared. That's where you're starting. Okay. And we are going to do 2. So that is a little bit different from the other size. On the other size, you only do the 2 on row 1, and then every other row gets just 1 petal at a and you keep going around in the same pattern. But for this one, you do 2 of them. So you only have 3 rows of petals as opposed to 4, which then, helps condense it and keeps it at a little bit of a smaller size. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go around the whole thing twice, but you would just repeat what I'm doing again when you get to the end here. But I'll just put 2 of each color in here so we can see our swirl starting. And last one. All right, so as you can see, here's our swirl starting. See, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I off camera? Yep, a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the multicolor. The natural, you have 4. Okay, 2 per row. Okay, so we have our swirl starting. And once we add that last one in here on row 4, you'll really see the swirl. And you still get the exact same effect as you would using 4 rows and getting your bigger wreath, but here you're just getting one that's a little bit smaller. And get these clipped off. So then the final placement here on row 4. Okay, so here's the number 4. Okay, so the number 4 has a pair, then there's a shared, then there's another pair. So there's a pair here, a pair here. Okay, it's kind of at 9 o'clock. That's where you want your multicolor or whatever you're starting with. That's where you want that to go. Okay, so right here. All right, just like this. And then here we're only doing 1 of each color, and then you'll repeat. So you're still using 10 of each color if you're using 4 colors. Nothing has changed with the amount you need. You're just kind of, again, condensing it all into a little bit smaller space to get a little bit of a smaller wreath. And of course, if you wanted to go the opposite direction and make a bigger wreath, then go ahead and use a large wreath board and use all the rows on that. Okay, so let's clip these off. All right, so as you can see, here's our swirl of, let me make sure I have it all in camera, swirl of the like wheat color. It's beige, and then I know I'm not going to be able to get, colors are looking a little washed out on camera, but here's the moss green, and then in the back is the other two. So that's what you would do in order to make this a little bit smaller. Okay, you would just repeat exactly what I did on the rest of the wreath. So you do 2 of each color, and then repeat on row 2, same on row 3, and then row 4 is just 1 of each. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you today, was just how to make this a little bit smaller if that's something that you wanted to do. I hope you found this helpful. Be sure to check the description box below for links to all of my affiliate shops, other full-length tutorials, and links to my social media. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Take care. Bye.